we got to talk about one of the biggest stars in all of mixed martial arts, Dustin Poirier, but his what could be potential opponent, Nathan Diaz. So right here you see Dustin call out Nate Diaz. He goes, Nathan, with the question mark. Nate is not going to not respond, so he goes, let's fight. Don't be scared this time. Those guys were supposed to fight way back in 2018 in Madison Square Garden. So the Nathan writes, I knew you were a beep, beep. That's 2-0 for me. Dustin Poirier responds, Nate Diaz, they're lying and you're getting played. So all this is going on in the public eye. These two guys have been scheduled to fight before and they want to fight again. So Ryan, I ask you, when you watch this from the outside, you know the paydays that Dustin Poirier has gotten versus McGregor. And now as he chirps with Nathan Diaz, do you question if Dustin is trying to find the money fight once again? And if he is, how much does it devalue the championship when he is the legitimate number one contender?
Listen, I don't question if Dustin Poirier is trying to find the money fight. He is trying to find the money fight. And you know, DC, man, you were a champion in 2 different divisions in the UFC. But the money is different when you get those big pay-per-views or you're going against a guy that's a big draw. And if you watch the division or if you watch people who are around the same size as Nate Diaz, what happens when they don't get a championship fight? They start tweeting Nate. They start chirping at Nate because they know that's a fight that'll be made. Now, because of his style, it's going to be a 5-round fight. It's even something that could be a main event or a co-main event on a pay-per-view. So absolutely, Dustin got a taste of that moolah. He felt what it's like to be against a big name, to be against a big star. And it doesn't devalue the championship, but it tells you what the UFC is now doing in making stars and in making money. This is what Dana White came here to do. When Dana White, before he had the porcelain teeth, before he had the bald head, before he got swole up, when the UFC wasn't what it was, when they had the big fat dude fighting in like the gi bottoms, and then it had the dude with the mullet fighting in the tank top and the shoes, this is what Dana White wanted it to get to. He wanted stars. Dustin Poirier has developed himself into one of the very best in the fight game. But Nathan Diaz is one of the biggest draws, and Dustin knows that, and he's going after that. If he has to fight Charles, he'll fight Charles at some point. And when he gets the belt, he can be the draw. But for now, get that money, bro.
You know what the craziest thing about the whole Dustin Poirier situation is? And I'm not saying he's wrong by any means. It's like before, all anyone ever wanted was to become a champion. Because Dana always said publicly, when you're holding that belt, everything changes. I can speak to that. As a guy that fought in the UFC and Strikeforce before, not champion, to what I made when I became the champion. But the reality is today, the sport has grown so far from those things that you said before that guys don't have to wear a belt to become a champion. Nathan Diaz is one of those guys. He's a massive star. Dustin Poirier, for all that he has become, is still not a draw in that regard. Now, it was very evident what fighting against someone like Nathan Diaz or Conor McGregor can do for your career. You can even watch it from the social presence that Dustin Poirier has, and even from what Khabib has after fighting Conor McGregor. It just literally puts you on a different level in terms of recognizability, right? Being recognized. People know Dustin Poirier more today. And that's honestly from the rub. It's no wrestling term. You wrestle the biggest name, you become more of a star. That's what happened with Dustin with Conor. Now he doesn't want to go backwards. He doesn't want to go back and fight Charles in a fight, honestly, which might be the toughest fight for him, but it will be seen by so many less people, Ryan. So yes, he's chasing the money fight. I can't say he's wrong, but as a guy that always valued the championship, I would kind of like to see him get that gold belt wrapped around his waist.
Well, DC, as a champion, how did you evaluate your fight opportunities? Were you always looking for the fight that got you to the belt or the fight that got you the belt? And honestly, DC, I don't even know why I'm asking you this question, because I feel like every fight you had in the UFC was for the belt. You were like one of those dudes. Hey, listen, you had Dana White privilege. That's what you had, DC. It wasn't Michael Chandler. It was you, bro. And so when you were trying to figure out who you were going to fight, which you never had to do because you were were winning championships all the time. For you, was it belt first and money second? Or did you have the privilege of actually having those things coincide so the decision wasn't very hard?
You know what, Ryan? First off, you said I had Dana White privilege. Come on, man. The reality is I won, and I did have some opportunities. For a while there, it seemed like I couldn't get rid of the belt. I'm like, take it back. Then something would happen to where the belt would fly back to me. It was like a magnet. But
Right.
I tell you this. I've always, as a guy that I was always championship first. It was like, it motivated all my decisions. But the reality is, when you're in Dustin's situation, you can fight other guys that have much bigger name value. But for me, it was always just the next guy up. And I think, whereas maybe I was more vocal on the microphone and I didn't always say whatever the UFC says next, I think that's the biggest mistake fighters make. I always kind of just fought the next guy. And luckily, it was in opportunities to make a lot of money. But the reality is, a Volkan Ozdemir fight wasn't ideal for me, but he was the next guy. Now, as the champion, you always got the next guy. It doesn't matter what they have done in terms of name recognition. All that matters is what they have put on paper to put them in a title shot in most instances. And for Dustin, he gets that belt. Whoever wins and earns a title shot, he'll have to fight him. And that won't always be the Nate Diaz and Conor McGregors of the world that are guaranteed to move the needle in terms of pay-per-views.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.